Yep, I can hear you.
All right, hold up. I'll get closer. Shit. Let me just put this over here. I had a wireless system hooked up, but then it kind of got crazy, so now I got this long cable. Anyway,
Nice.
let me continue.
Cool, man. Well, first and foremost, my gratitude and thanks for coming on this thing. My name is Brett. I just kind of play in a local band around the area, but I grew up going to Atomic and stuff, and so you're
Hell
just
yeah.
kind of one of those names, one of those dudes that just always comes up. So I follow you on the hipstergram, and for people that don't know, it's the Riff Dojo for the guitar players out there looking for some shredders to follow. So that's kind of how I came across you, at least for this. So it's
Well,
kind of
dude, it's nice to meet you virtually. Are you a Virginian or are you a Marylander?
so I am a Marylander. However, I do work in Virginia. Um, don't want to say exactly which agency, but I know you grew up in Fairfax, and I think that's correct.
Yeah. So I'm a
So
Virginian,
I
you
work
know.
for a neighboring agency down there,
Sick.
paramedic in the fire department. So
Cool.
I kind of live in both worlds, but yeah, I just grew up around Maryland and the Greenbelt sort of area.
Cool, man. Well, I love this area. I was born and raised here. I've been in a local band since I was like 15. You know what I mean? I've identified that way myself. So
Yeah,
as also a kid who got like his third guitar at Atomic and just kept going back over and over and over again. Like I totally relate to being a Atomic music junkie. So for anyone
yeah.
who's not listening to or who's listening, is it video or is this audio? I guess I should. Are we video
I'm
and
actually
audio? All right.
recording
Well,
both.
either way, anybody who's listening
So
or watching, go check out Atomic Music in Beltsville, Maryland. You can Google it. It is,
hell
in
yeah,
my opinion, the best music store in the world, but definitely the best music store in the area. They buy, sell, and trade gear, and I'm constantly in there getting new things and trying things out because that store has a ton of fun. Like anything you can Google ends up there, you know?
yeah,
So it's a really great place for musicians to find things that can help like spawn their imagination and or be inspiration, you know. Whereas like maybe a guitar center or your local like corporate kind of store might have more modern only, like there's
yeah.
all sorts of weird stuff hidden all over Atomic. So anyway, for those
Including
who
the
don't
people.
know, yeah, including the people there who are great, but the people who work there, you know, that's what
Yeah.
makes the store really special. But you know, for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, just wanted to send a shout out because we have that in common. We're both Atomic customers.
Hell yeah. I'll send the soundbite over to him. We'll use it as like an official advertisement for him.
Shit, they don't need enough
Uh,
advertising. They got enough advertising for me, but
yeah,
and they got enough money because I'm buying enough guitars there. So
yeah. I think my buddy has one of your old 7-string ESPs.
oh
He was
yeah,
like, "Oh,
well
you got to
yeah.
mention that to him." It's like,
Well, it's funny because
oh,
with the seven strings, man, we have experimented. You know, we're not really like seven string players,
yeah,
so those things also Evertunes. We've had a lot, and if I've traded them over there, it's usually to get something else that I'm like, I want to try that. And you know, obviously, I love the over there signature Mike Schleibaum guitar that I'm pimping right now. But for the lower tunings, we've been using the Digitech drop tune pedal, and
hmm,
we've been modding out some of these guitars with like super fat like 84s, like something, and changing the nuts. So
yeah,
we're just not like that big into like having the sevens and the eights. So we've experimented, but that's kind of like why they might end up at Atomic, is that we're not that comfortable with them the way a lot of bands that we tour with are, you know, the seven
yeah,
string guitars. But
yeah. That's wild.
we like that low tuning though, you know.
Yeah, of course. For people that don't follow Darkest Hour, I mean, obviously metal is hell. So, been doing it for a little while. but I didn't even know you could down tune with a pedal these days. I feel like everybody's showing me new stuff now, and I'm
Oh yeah, here, look.
like,
I'm gonna give you a little show you something. Let me show you something.
sweet.
Everybody who can't
Yeah.
see that but only hear it, that's a Digitube drop pedal, and this thing is magical. It'll drop your guitar down 8 half steps, I mean a full octave, and you just change it with this little knob right here. And we do that a lot live. Also, the Axe FX has a little pitch shifter, so you can make this work with like a couple of steps in either direction with your guitar, but after a while it kind of doesn't sound that good when you play chords. So if you can, we'll change guitars. But man, this really helps if you have a set that has like a bunch of different stuff going on and you just don't want to change guitars because you don't want to break up the flow of the set. You can get away with this. So yeah, that is a little trick.
Yeah, a little bit more modern, I guess, than the old school whammy pedal.
But, oh well, yeah, I got that over here too, but this is different because it locks it in that position, and it's built to like track what you're playing a little bit better. So like the whammy pedal will drop it down, but when it does that, it just sounds crazy. It's like but this is cool. It just kind of makes it nice and still in tune.
We're kind of on the tech front. Thought about asking you too. Do you still use amps in the studio?
Yeah, I mean, do you see all
I'm
these?
just curious because the plugins have gotten so good.
Oh well, like, yeah.
I was wondering how much you kind of still schlep them around, or if you're still just recording all at home, and just kind of how that works.
Well, man, I do like to use the plugins, and I have a Kemper right here that you can't see, and I have Axe FX. I do like to use the plugins when we're doing demos because it's a good way, like, to have a placeholder idea, and then if you want to change something later, you go and just punch the DI, and you can make the demo sound the same. Whereas if you track it with an amp or something, and you want to change the idea, you have to like match the sound, and it's like, ugh. So if I'm composing. If I'm like working on a song that I think is going to change or develop, then I'll use the Kemper, or I'll use a plugin like I don't know, like Guitar Rig is one that is kind of okay. And then but then when it's time to like really track something, I like to use an amp because I like the idea of just kind of making it feel, I mean, we're recording everything in the computer, everything's so computerized, like give it some kind of, I don't know, tonal flavor. So I do like to use the amps, and I love to turn them on and get them loud as hell. But I also would just embrace the use of technology, because you know you can't hate on it when you're trying to develop the songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I imagine too, like, you know, when you reach a kind of point in your career where studio time is, I mean, I won't say endless, of course, but you're not kind of on the hook like a lot of the small time bands are for time. I would imagine, you know, taking the time to be able to really get the amps dialed in and everything like that isn't as much of an issue. Whereas I know some of the people that I'm friends with now, they often just kind of use the plugins for saving time, honestly.
Oh man, like, I'm the same way. Like if I want to get something good right away, yeah, I'll pop in the plugin. But I think when it's something that we're going to attempt to like put out and sell to people, I think it's important to kind of like go that extra mile and make it as good as you want it to be. But we're not that religious about it, man. We'll use a plugin on a record if you're blending it with stuff. I mean, we're not like anti, but yes, we love amps. We love their beautiful toys. Look at them all with these knobs back there.
Yeah, so I mean, that's what you're working on now, kind of, right? Is the new record. I saw that it was pretty well crowdfunded, it looked like.
Overall. Oh well, we finished our last record was crowdfunded on Indiegogo.
Okay.
But our next record is actually, we're funding it through Patreon, which the band is doing right now. So if anybody knows what that is or can Google it, Darkest Hour has a Patreon where you can go and subscribe. We're doing all sorts of fun physical stuff, like look, check this out. We got we're working on a sticker pack. And we got a bunch of cool weird Darkest Hour stickers, like the head from the new record right there.
Nice.
One for my guitar. Here's a cool one. So like we did records, we did wall flags, we did t-shirts, we're doing all sorts of
Yeah.
like weird things over there. And then we're also funding the making of a record, which I'm working on with the
Yeah.
guys, which is album 10. And we have a lot of different songs, a lot of different, it's all over the place, but it's a good place to be. So it's coming together. And I also have another band called Be Well that has a brand new record that's going to be coming out, and had a record just come out during the pandemic too. Been working
Yeah.
on that. And so between the two bands, definitely that's been like 100% of my creative time.
Yeah.
Other than a bunch of the other crap that I've been working on.
It's a lot, man. Staying busy. How many hours a day would you say are you kind of in the lab, as it were?
I mean, I don't think it's not really about how many hours I'm here. It's about
Yeah.
what time am I not here? Because I mean,
I got you.
basically, like I live here now. Everybody lives here now too. The family's upstairs. Like I'm at my house. Like I used to have a standalone studio that I would drive to
Yeah.
and shit. And dude, it just like I was spending so much time in the car, it got maddening. But then
Yeah.
I'm so glad I set this up before the pandemic, because now I
Mm.
have a place to work. But yeah, we're just working at it. We're working at it all the time, man. Like
Yeah.
it's not a job that you like stop working at, like you clock
Mhm.
out. Like it's just something you love that you sort of just like are insanely intense about 24 hours a day. So it's a little weird to be
Yeah.
around me and a bunch of these dudes. So but my wife does a good job, and there are some normal people that we do interact with. So shout out to those people.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think it's kind of inspiring for some of us part-timers out there who are all, still working, still aspiring to maybe get to a point where we could kind of just work on the things that we love. But, it's one of those patience things. And I did hear you talk on another podcast. I think it was the 100 Words podcast. And you kind of mentioned I don't know, the good parts of having a strong work ethic, not necessarily just in the creative field.
Oh
And
yeah, I'm glad that I hit on that, because
um,
I wanted to bump in there and say I think there's like a really big misconception about what a part-time musician is. Okay?
yeah,
Cuz to me this idea pisses me off, okay? Because
mm,
being a musician is not a job. It's like an
yeah,
act.
mm,
Like as in like a physical act of doing, not an act as in like a play.
yeah,
When you're an artist, you create, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to also dig a ditch or go fucking,
yeah,
uh, check somebody out at Walmart because you're a teller. Like
mm,
uh, a real art is honest. So it comes from honest people. It doesn't just come from people who are fucking whatever dedicated to playing guitar all day or something.
yeah,
So I think, and also I want to say music can be a lot of different things in a lot of different people's lives, but it can play a really important role even if it's not the biggest thing you do all the time. And I
yeah,
think that there's this virtuoso effect, that people push on people all, maybe it's more American or than it is anything else, but it's like this idea that, if you try something, you have to be good at it or whatever, or excel
yeah,
at it. So I guess what I'm getting to is that people that do part-time music shouldn't feel
mm,
that way, because all music really is kind of part-time. Like everybody who's an artist is one step away from also, washing dishes somewhere or something if they got
yeah,
desperate enough. So I don't think there's any problem with people like having bands while they have jobs and being people that have jobs. Like I own a car dealership and I have a band that
yeah,
plays ska or something, whatever. But I
yeah,
think it's important for people to make music and express themselves rather than just be like in cover bands and shit like that too. So I encourage people to do all of those things. Like if you aren't in a band for a living, that doesn't matter, and it's okay to make your songs and play them to nobody if that's what it takes, because like the act of making the art and being with the band and stuff is kind of a gift too. So I always like to throw it in there when people bring that up,
yeah,
because I feel like they look at me as like a full timer, and which is true, but I just think that at the end of the day, if your song slams, like it doesn't matter what the fuck you do, after you
no,
played it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe to even build on what you just said, I mean, one of the things that I like about your guys' music, or to a large degree anyone's songs, is that there's a lot of forward direction. Like there's a really strong point to make and there's passion behind it. And I'm not completely sold that that can come from just sitting around all day trying to be a guitar virtuoso, like you said.
Oh no,
Maybe
you have to get out. You got to get into the world and interact with
like,
people. Find out what to write about, find out how to interact with people so that you can, because music isn't just about like performing, it's about connecting,
yeah.
and you can't do that if you're like so different than everybody else you're trying to connect with, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we could all maybe aspire to be Steve Vai or something, but even at the end of the day, I'm sure he had a job back in the day and was, plunging toilets or something
Oh yeah,
prior to,
he's worked really hard, and he still
yeah,
works really hard on what he does, and he's still really accessible. Steve Vai has a Patreon also, you know. I
true.
mean,
Yeah.
he puts in the work.
Uh,
He's self-released records when people don't want to do it. He's
yeah.
probably shelved records that he put a ton of energy into to to protect his creative brand. I mean, I think I definitely look at him as like, yeah, dude, he's a sick ass guitar player, but I
Yeah.
also see him as a real person because he's like clearly built something that was like a lot of work on his own. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I'm sure you have like kind of some firsthand knowledge of that as well. To me, he's probably some sort of ethereal guitar
I mean,
god
he's a
that,
god. He's the
but
biggest. Like who's big? Who's
um,
bigger? He's the
yeah, I
best.
don't know.
He's the best.
Um, I've tried to play that solo in Crossroads, and it's it's just stupid.
Hey, me and you both. I know parts of
So
it, but you know what's
yeah,
funny is we toured with this band Fallujah, and
yeah,
the guitar player in that band, he's funny. He could play a bunch of shit, and I was like, oh yeah, man, you ever seen the movie Crossroads? And that dude could rip that fucking whole thing from the arpeggio in the beginning.
wow, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was just like, damn. Hey, but I'm just like you. That shit's hard. I mean, that shit is
Yeah.
hard.
My level of expertise kind of stops around the Van Halen
Hey man, Van
era.
Halen is really
So
hard too. I'm constantly learning
yeah,
how to play those songs. Even the riffs are hard because they have swing to them. So, you
yeah,
know,
that's he was never really appreciated for that, was he? I don't know.
no. But I love AC/DC if I'm gonna get simple. I encourage people
Yeah,
just learn some AC/DC songs, man.
yeah, yeah. I heard that's kind of how you got started, and then I also heard you got into the Pantera a little bit there. And for me, that's, I don't know, Dimebag is probably king. So I figured I had to at least bring him up
Oh yeah,
once during this chat.
R.I.P. dude.
So yeah,
For me, I got into classic rock first. Like I got into
yeah,
AC/DC, Van Halen, Ozzy,
mhm,
and then I was of the age where Pantera broke in front of my eyes, you know. So I
yeah,
saw Vulgar Display of Power come on MTV, and then Pantera rise up, and then
yeah,
Dimebag become the guy on the cover of every guitar magazine. And so that Dime to me is like my Van Halen too. But then something else happened where I live in Washington D.C. and I was exposed to like Discord Records, Fugazi, the punk, the hardcore that we have, the
mhm,
huge. I'm wearing a Minor Threat shirt, like you know.
yeah,
So that really took my like musical life in another direction. That was around when Pantera had finished putting out Far Beyond Driven. At that point, I sort of
yeah,
had gotten into like straight edge hardcore vegan uh, stuff like Earth Crisis, Snapcase,
yeah,
Integrity, kind of these East Coast metal hardcore bands that were coming up in the 90s, and I sort of lost interest in the greats. And I mean, I still checked
yeah,
out every Pantera record when they came out, but I identified more as like a hardcore kid. But Dime
yeah,
always stayed in my top five, man. You know, he always,
yeah.
even on the records that were later, like the Damage Plan records that I don't love the songs, I always loved his playing, you know, and it's too
That had
bad.
some
It's too
that had
bad
some
he gave.
down tuning on it for sure.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of
Yeah,
the down tuning from Dime, and also kind of the idea that you could have like these more like kind of pounding riffs, you know,
yeah,
chugging and stuff like that.
yeah. And I mean, it's cool you brought up the punk thing as well. I mean, I know you were into hardcore, and that was probably a generation, I guess, before mine. I'm about 30 right now. And it's funny because I guess there was maybe a little bit of a new wave of punk, if you will, about 10 years ago, especially I feel like here in Baltimore, with bands like the Casualties. And I wanted to bring up Municipal Waste too, because I know you guys were on the road with them for at least a tour or two.
Yeah, we watched their entire rise to you know, their rise from like party band to real band to
Yeah,
festival headliner
it's
because
crazy.
they're in the area too. And also we've got some other great bands in the area, man. Pig
Yeah,
Destroyer is a
yeah,
killer band from metal band from this area. So there are a lot of bands who sort of grew from the fertile ground that is DC, Baltimore. And
yeah,
the thing that it was interesting about the early 90s was you had this second wave of hardcore, kind of like what would become metalcore, that
yeah,
really spawned Victory Records style bands, you know what I mean, and that whole subgenre of heavy music. And
mm,
it has become its like own thing now. And also the internet sort of did away with the whole subculture of it, but
yeah,
made its own genre. And so we were just sort of surfing along as we were developing as a band. And then sort of as the internet was created around our like third record, then we sort of became that band moving forward, you know what I mean?
yeah,
But the early years, it was really like a blend between like a punk rock show, a hardcore show, and a heavy metal
mm,
show. And they were definitely like secular. It was separate, you
yeah,
know. But nowadays, man, shit's all messed up, and that's the way it should be. But like back then, it was like there was
yeah,
kind of things that were sort of like made these things real foreign. But now it's like kind of
yeah.
normal what we're all talking about.
Yeah, everything's definitely blended now, genre wise, which definitely not a bad thing. I often wonder though, I mean, for sure, what that scene was like. Like, kind of the point of doing a podcast or anything like this is to just create a little mesh, a little network between bands. But I feel like nowadays it's nothing almost compared to what it was then as far as bands. I don't know, just pulling each other along, or maybe they just got into the got to open for somebody, and the next thing you know, they're a thing. But
Well,
I feel like
well,
that's missing a
bands.
little more.
Yeah, I don't know because I'm old or
Yeah,
whatever, but I think that's what you're talking about is called scenes. I do think
yeah,
scenes exist, and
mm,
Darkest Hour is still part of one in a sense that when we tour with certain bands like Unearth, or I don't know, Himsa, or like let me see, Dillinger Escape Plan, or like As Lay Dying, or like, you know, kind of like that Between the Buried and Me, sort of that
yeah,
general circle. That's sort of like our scene, you know what I
hmm,
mean? And we kind of exist in there, and for a long time we sort of like fought it, tried to tour with more death metal bands, tried to tour with punk
yeah,
bands, you know. But you kind of end up where your fans are, you know, like other fans also listen to type thing. So I think
yeah,
what we do now is we try to embrace like what our fans seem to navigate to. And I think we end
mm,
up sort of in a scene a little bit now. And I think it's not necessarily bad because you sort of like streamline people that are paying attention. But it is, you know, unfortunate because we do like to just we like to play to people who have never seen someone use a double bass pedal before. Because not
yeah,
only are you like blowing their mind with a bunch of other shit, like the way maybe John's vocals sound, but you're also just like you know, changing their global sense of reality. Because once they know about one band that plays double bass style music, they find
yeah,
out about all these other type of bands. So I don't know, like uh I think there's a little bit out of that in there in us still, but all the tours we do now are really like down the
yeah.
middle, pretty much in a scene of style. So I don't know, you know, but one day you might see us out there again with Anti-Flag or some weird ass band that doesn't make sense. And that's because we just like to shake it up.
Yeah, man. Have you guys been able to get out at all in the last, I don't know, 6 months since kind of the sanctions have lifted? Or
Well, we got together and worked on a record together finally after a while. Everybody had been vaccinated long enough and followed all the rules so that we could like get together and breathe all over each other. And we got together for 6 weeks, about a month and a half ago. And we were together every day, just banging it out, made a sketch of the album, and sort of just got prepared for our return to the stage, which is this September, the 26th at the Furnace Fest in Alabama. So we're just kind of focused on that as a band. And I don't think we'll get together as a big group again until September, but it's the summer and everybody's sort of trying to soak it in because we have a lot of tours and events planned for next summer. And,
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you guys will get some good crowds, man. Even the local shows over this summer have been way more full than they were 2 years ago, I guess, prior to the pandemic. So it's been pretty wild. So hopefully you guys really get after it or are able to go for it down there, because I know especially the further you go south too, the crowds are getting even bigger.
Well, I have a feeling like it's crazy because on my phone, I've got a bunch of friends in bands and they've started playing shows. They started, and they're all over everywhere. And you definitely, the one unifying thing, no matter if you're in the South, you're in the North, it's that, or the West or the East or whatever, Central.
Yeah.
People want to get together and see music and feel some kind of normalcy. So like, I do think that people in the North and people in the cities who might be more prone to be all about vaccinations, I think they're going to get together because they're going to want to believe that the vaccinations are working. And then if in the places in the South where it's hot or whatever, where people maybe haven't seen as the same impacts of COVID and they don't have the same perspective, I think they're going to get together just because they're like, fuck it, finally, we can get together.
Yeah.
I think the Europeans, even though they're cautious, they're going to get together because they just like everybody else want to feel that sense of community. So I just think it's a matter of trying to just be patient and let society deal with the whiplash of all those people that unfortunately died. And then, eventually, if everybody's just cool, man, we're going to be fucking rocking again,
Yeah, man, for sure. It's cool you guys have been able to kind of lay low and stay patient until September.
We've definitely been fortunate to have this cool space and to have the time to be able to work with people and like to be able to have the privilege to be, have everything you need delivered to you whenever the fuck you want it. That's the way everybody. So we're grateful that we are in that position. And I think that's what I mean when I talk about people that work hard and have to do tough shit right now. Like, I think there's a sense of like, if they survive it, they're going to live through it and it's going to make them stronger. And if you end up just focused on sitting in your little dojo, that's it all the time, then you might lose grip on reality because it's definitely privileged to be down here. So we try to keep that perspective on,
Yeah. And from the perspective of the DoorDasher, by the way, the tips were good. So
fuck yeah,
I appreciate that.
Hey man, every dude that's in your favorite band is one step away from being a DoorDasher too, man. So don't hate. I was a bike messenger for almost a decade before 9/11. So I know all about delivering packages and then rocking shows.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I just kind of picked that up part-time. It was good. But yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a couple main subjects we got to get to. Probably first and foremost is hockey. I don't know.
Oh shit.
I just got to throw that out there because I know you guys are big Caps fans. You've even been on like I feel like the Caps post game before, and maybe got a few tunes thrown in there.
Yeah, we love the Caps. We love the Caps. We love to talk about hockey. I mean, like, we have been on Channel 4. We did some stuff with them at the Caps show there. And we did a bunch of songs that were picked up by the Caps eventually, used by them in some kind of editing. And mainly, the crux of it is we were inspired by, I think mainly that the Pantera Dallas Stars song that we loved when they were kids. That was basically a Cowboys from Hell mashup. And we were like, yeah, man, we should do something for the Caps, man. Because I grew up playing hockey. I grew up loving hockey. Grew up like that connection was there between metal and hockey for me. And so we did it for fun with the first song, and nobody in the band believed that anyone would care. And they just did it because I was so passionate about it. And then it caught on. So we did a second one called Rock the Red. The first one was called Let's Go Caps. The second one was called Rock the
Yeah.
Red. Just a stupid little fight song jingle you
Yeah.
can put on videos. And then that got picked up and used in games, and that was exciting. So then we kind of toughened it up and we put out Unleash the Fury. And that year, all I'm gonna say is the Caps won the fucking Stanley Cup. So I'm not saying we did it, but I'm saying we did it.
Yeah. Did you make it out to any of those parties?
Hell yeah, we went. We saw
Yeah.
Fall Out Boy play at Game 6
Yeah.
or something in the street. We were trying to play ourselves, but I think they were afraid that the show would be too violent, and it probably
Too many
would've
mosh
been.
pits.
Yeah, they were really afraid of a mosh pit on H Street, but we
Yeah.
tried. We tried hard.
Yeah.
And then when that didn't work out, we got to go chill in the owner's box. That was sick. Party up
Nice.
there, and
Yeah.
party with the whole news team or
Yeah.
whatever. Just kick it with them.
Yeah.
They were like, had no idea who we were, but it was like totally hilarious. So we were really appreciative of that opportunity. But just gonna throw it out there. The one thing that's polarizing about sports is competition, because you kind of need competition for it to exist, but you don't need competition for music to exist. And that's why I was always drawn to it more than hockey when I was a kid, even though I loved hockey. And going out there and being all about the Caps, sometimes it can piss off your most favorite fan from Pittsburgh, or your fan who loves you from fucking Philadelphia, but's got a Flyers back piece tattoo, So we love sports, but we hate division and we hate polarization, and we definitely don't really thrive on competition internally. So we appreciate people that don't give a fuck about hockey or sports too. And we have all types in our band. We have hockey fanatics to people that fucking hate sports.
Yeah, I gotta bring it up because I still play. So
hell yeah, man.
Cool.
I do every once in a while, but I get a little too sore afterwards. So
yeah,
fucks with my playing. So
also the hands, you don't want to break those.
So I'm not gonna. I mean, I'm 44. We're not gonna get that serious out there, but you never know what could happen on the ice.
Yeah,
these things got to get insured, baby.
Exactly. I broke mine last year out there.
Shit.
I had to play with a cast on for a while. So
all right, you just talked me out of it.
I'm a little more careful than I used to be about it. But yeah, man, that's cool. And then you got a few more things going on. I mean, kind of even in and out of music. You got the Ask the Dude advice column. Kind of similar thing to maybe even this podcast or other podcasts, where kind of just sharing tidbits from the road or from whatever it may be within the industry. So that's kind of cool.
Actually, Ask the Dude is not a podcast, although I talked about it. It's a blog, and I did it, like, if you can imagine, before social media existed. And I sort of to step a couple steps back, in my other life before I was a full-time rock star, I also went to college and got a degree in social work, BS from George Mason University here in Virginia. And then I basically promptly went on to do nothing with it because I wanted to rock, like Twisted Sister says. I just went on tour right away. But the social work perspective was always there. I mean, the skills, the communication, awareness, like the techniques, all that stuff. It's like in your head. It's part of who you are after you go to school for it long enough. And so I always wanted to experiment with the idea of using the family perspective, sort of the communication tools of families within social work, the way social workers work with families, basically, in sort of like transpose that's the way that bands operate. Because bands are tricky, no band's inner family is the same, but no family really is the same. So social work has to be malleable, and there's some room in there. So started trying to develop the idea by just taking letters and writing people back. And then I started publishing the letters on a WordPress blog. And it was cool. I've gathered a lot of really information. I was trying to cook up a book idea, but then I just kind of social media was invented, which basically was like Ask the Dude in real time, because if people had a question, they could just hit me up right away. And for a minute that served a purpose. So I sort of moved on from the blog, but now, years later, there's like been a lot of talk about like mental health awareness and sort of like the
Mm,
awareness of people in general, and talking about like, are you okay? Am I okay? Type thing. And I thought it would be a unique experience to bring the blog back and sort of flip the conversation, because right now I'm doing a shit ton of podcasts. Like I never shut up.
yeah.
I mean, my story's been told a million times. So I just sort of wanted to hear more about people, like what they were
Yeah.
going through, what they, you know, if they were musicians, what they might want to ask someone who has the unique perspective of having a bachelor's degree in social work and also toured professionally in a band for 2 decades and
Yeah.
survived the creation of the internet and 11 different record deals. And you know what I mean? Several bad tattoos. And you pull that guy, those
Yeah.
together and ask that guy, you know. And so that's where we're at. And so if anybody has any questions, you can ask the dude at askthedude.net. You just go there and type in a question and hit it, and eventually I'm going to be answering them. But I'm not
Yeah.
sure in what kind of fashion, whether I'll relaunch the blog or whether I'll partner with another media partner like a magazine or someone to do it. But either way, the information is going to get out there. And I think the most important thing is talking about bands understanding that they do act like a family, that interpersonal communication skills in bands, it's okay to practice, it's okay to fail at, it's okay to address, you know, and it's okay to work on them to make your band stronger, and that it is absolutely a part of making music together, which I think is starting to be a lost art because of the way everybody creates on computers. So I think that there's a lot of connection between the communication skills and social work and music. And so that's what that conversation is. And it's probably really heady for a lot of people. But
Maybe.
and shout out to all those social
Yeah.
workers out there who actually did do some social work and do put in the hard work and hopefully
Yeah.
made some melodic death metal for their day, because that's what I got from them.
Yeah, you can never underestimate the importance. And there's like two directions I kind of want to take the conversation based on what you just said. I mean, with the social stuff, I mean, I could see it anytime I went to work, especially during the pandemic, but even prior, like the amount of psych calls that we get, the amount of loneliness that's out there, the anxiety, the panic, the detachment, all that stuff, it's very real. So I mean, what you're doing there on the social front is pretty cool. And anybody who's trying to do it, you never know how much you're helping, because I mean, there's definitely a shortage, I think, for people
Yeah,
that can help.
and music
You
speaks
know?
to people when they have problems.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? So
yeah,
like sometimes people are willing to like open up to like an artist that they feel like they've been talking to for years, like randomly. And I'll tell you, I know
mhm,
that from like my perspective, like I've had discussions with people about shit they wouldn't tell their family, but I think they might
yeah,
think that we are more intimate because all they do is listen to Darkest Hour, you know? And it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
some people might be like, whoa, man, like, why the fuck are you throwing this on me? But like, I mean, we're kind of a open dressing room kind of policy band. So we're into that type of shit. So I think it fits. And I do think
yeah,
like what you said about the pandemic and just in general, what's out there right now, I think it's important to like, you know, be open about it, and be like, when you see us, when you see Darkest Hour, we look like we are fucking always partying, because we are
yeah,
usually having a good time. But that doesn't mean that we're always happy either, or that
mhm,
doing anything awesome is this easy. So
yeah.
it might look easy, but that's the whole point. It's supposed to
Yeah,
look,
of
So I just
course.
think you can bend on that, and you can tell people the truth, and you can still be the magical musician for them. And I think it's kind of
Of
fun to
course.
play on both.
Yeah, and then I guess the other thing I kind of wanted to expound on a little was you mentioned the gang mentality within a band, and it, maybe even being a little bit of a lost art. And that's something that feel like I've talked about with other people too, because it's hard to find, especially maybe as you get older. But it's cool you guys have been able to kind of keep that mentality within your unit, you know. Um,
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call it a gang. It's more of a family, because gangs
yeah.
operate a lot different. Gangs operate a lot
Well,
more
yeah.
viciously. A lot more viciously. I mean,
Yeah.
it might look like a gang, but it's a fucked up family. And you know, it's a
Yeah.
fucked up family, even when people like are not in the band or were in the band or even worked for the band. You know what I mean? So I do feel thankful that we have had that culture for a long time. But I
Yeah.
think a lot of bands don't realize be, you know, quite so much that they're responsible for their inner band kind of
Yeah.
vibe. You know what I mean? And I also think that there's a lot of people that I don't know. They do things because they think that it like that's the way it's supposed to look, you
Yeah.
know. And I think once you kind of get this, I don't know. We were talking about sports. It's sort of like a combination of like locker
Mm.
room, like meets like artist convention kind of. It's just like
Yeah.
it's not macho, but it definitely is like sweaty and smelly. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Mm.
But yeah, being in a band that's like almost died together, been arrested together, sat in customs deportation window sections for hours together, you know, been through the loss of loved ones together. Just like when you go on
Yeah.
tour a shitload, you go through a lot of bullshit. A lot of
Yeah.
just sitting around at fucking Taco Bell because there ain't nowhere else to eat and just being like, fuck. You know, and that stuff feels like it's worthless. But then after a while, you realize that kind of pulls you guys all together in a weird way, and it makes it feel like you're around a bunch of fucking crazy people once people are around us. So you know, I
Yeah.
think that it's good. It's a blessing and a curse. But I would encourage people to try out being in a band if they're not, because it's pretty awesome.
Well said. And it also kind of answers one of my buddies, Walter, from PRS, wanted to ask you, after being on tour with the same people for so many months at a time, you know, how do you feel the connections between members change and all that? So I feel like you definitely basically already answered his question,
I mean,
but
you know, the
that
answer. Well,
that's cool.
the answer to that question also is like the more you get to know someone, the more mean you can be to
Yeah,
them.
it's
You
true.
know, like you can be the best of friends with someone, but also the you know, the more that you're around them and the more familiar you get with them, the more you can also hurt them. So you have to be aware of that, you know,
Yeah,
because like familiarity can bring, you know, friendliness, but it can also bring contempt, and you
breeds
just
contempt. Yeah,
it doesn't always. That's
yeah,
not always true, or every marriage would end. Not only happens, you know. So
yeah. No, that's cool. Just wanted to get his question in, but like I said, you were kind of already going down that avenue anyway, so I figured I'd get him a shout out because he's a big fan.
hell yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I said, I really just kind of appreciate you coming on and just talking to random people and doing stuff like this, doing podcasts and all that, because I feel like it definitely does matter, and it is inspiring to people out there who are working on their stuff and just trying to get better and getting those creative outlets going. So this has been pretty fun. Really probably just kind of wind it down. um I kind of wanted to ask you, have you been on Bet You Can't Play This on Guitar World? I know you've been in the mag. I was wondering if
Oh
you got any
man.
riffs in.
No, I mean, dude, you can play this. You know what I mean? That's my answer. You can.
Yeah.
I mean, we're very hard, but like, we just like I don't know, man. We shred pretty hard, but we don't shred that hard. You know, I mean, I don't know. It never appealed to me because like I don't think that I can do anything that's insane enough. But then at the same
Yeah.
time, I was doing like filming a guitar lesson recently for the with ESP of like what I figured to be like one of our simpler solos, right?
Yeah.
And this was like a whole bunch of people around guitar lessons all the time, and they were like categorizing what I was doing as like, you know, the top level of hardness. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I'm like, wait, this is in the top level. I mean, what about all these other players? It's way
Yeah.
harder to play fucking anything off of the audience's, you know, anything off of the Steve Vai record, Passion and Warfare,
Yeah.
like than this. You can't put those in the same category. There's got to be like an extra hard. But the reality is, like, once you get to a certain level of playing, you're looking for something, you know. And I think
Yeah.
at some point they were like, "Oh yeah, you're just up there," and I was like, "Oh okay." But no, I've
Yeah,
never been on the column. Maybe one day, but man, magazines are different
yeah,
now. So,
that's true.
but I have done plenty of lessons and bullshit out there. So don't worry, you got plenty of media meat doing shit. But y'all can play this. So go buy the Darkest Hour tab books on our Big Cartel web store. We got it, Big Cartel or darkesthour.bigcartel.com. We sell all the tablature, all the fucking maps to play all the songs. You guys can go get on there and learn how to play them. So we're more of a bet you can play this type band, you know.
And I guess to clarify too, then you're not a gang, you're a cartel. You're a
Well,
level up.
fuck. We're gonna stay away from all criminal references because we want to stay out of jail.
Of course. I guess personally, I feel like one more question maybe before we get out of here. I'm always curious about people's favorite places they played. If something
Oh
stands out to
shit.
you, something about the venue, something about the crowd. I don't know. I mean, I realize there's probably a million, but
Well, okay.
some,
Favorite places, man. Of Washington D.C., man, hometown where all your friends
of
are at,
course.
man. It's badass. Okay.
Yeah.
Los Angeles, California, dude. Home
Yeah.
of the Sunset Strip, glam rock, man. Everything feels better and now, like more big. Okay, or maybe you love Budapest, man. Maybe go exotic. I love Budapest. Always great shows. Czech Republic, we love playing in the
Yeah.
East. Germany, dude. Berlin, Munich,
Yeah.
Hamburg. You know, Leipzig. We love Germany.
Yeah.
But also Asia, dude. Japan, Australia, Sydney. The Gold Coast, man, Perth, all the way out there,
Yeah.
Adelaide, you know, Melbourne. We like all the cities and, you know, all 6 of the cities in Australia. We had a great time. We played New Zealand, but we've only done that a few times. Same with Philippines. We only done those trips to Asia a few times in those countries, or maybe only once. So we love playing over there. Need to get over there more. But I think the true answer is we like playing places because we're tourists. We like to
Yeah.
go. So we liked playing in Moscow, even though it wasn't like the most rip roaring crowd. So I think our
Yeah.
criteria of what is the best place to play is that wherever there's an adventure, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
It makes sense.
we love to be loved. I mean, don't get me wrong. We love to rock that
Yeah.
show to like 1,000 people who lose their shit or whatever, but or the big festival of 20,000 people.
Yeah.
But we, you know, really like to just play somewhere where we also just went and saw some awesome sightseeing shit, had some new food, tried some new alcohol, and now we're gonna rock. That's like our ideal situation. Doesn't matter where, it's just the idea of something new. That's kind of what we're always chasing. So that's a
Yeah.
long answer for your question. I should have just said Washington, D.C.
No, that's cool. Anywhere where you can get the fancy liquor, the aguardiente or the absinthe, or
Oh, we're not fancy. We like Jack Daniels, Miller Lite.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
We like Jack Daniels, Miller Lite.
that's
Maybe if you're feeling fancy, maybe Corona.
there you go. That's one of the other questions I always ask bands is Jameson or Jack. So
Well,
answers
everybody
that.
else in my band would say Jameson, and then I would say
Really?
Jack, and then they would be
Yeah.
pissed at me. But then somebody would say, "Well, can we get more Jack if we pick Jack than Jameson?"
Yeah. Get a
Because we like
sponsorship going.
volume. We don't like you know, stuff owns you, man. We'll just buy the alcohol and drink it. Because you know,
Yeah.
like I said, most of the guys would pick Jameson. I would pick Jack, but we would all drink whatever was there.
True. As long as it's on the rocks. Can't drink it warm. I don't know.
If you gotta drink it, if it's warm.
So yeah, I'll probably feature just the latest release on this episode, unless you got another one in mind. But Nothing But the Truth was probably what I was going to slap on here.
That's
So,
a good jam. Well, thank you
right.
for having me on, dude. Thank you for
Yeah,
doing your
dude.
podcast. Don't stop doing that. Also, appreciate you for your hard work in the real world, doing your real shit. You know what I mean?
Relatively
And
speaking.
yeah, do you know? Don't forget to make some art every once in a while and put it out there yourself. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah, man.
that's what it's all about. So, cheers to you and everybody out there. I'm gonna go back to my day of playing with all these awesome shit over here, and I don't know. Hey, holler at me when you see me in the streets. That's what I tell people. Like, you see me at Atomic, say what's up, dude. Yeah, I might be like in my own zone or talking on the phone or just yip yapping and never shutting up, but I will pay attention and I love to say what's up to people. So holler at your boy if you see me in real life. And otherwise, we'll be seeing you on tour. Hopefully, you know, you live around here,
Yeah,
so
man.
we're gonna be playing soon enough.
I'll see you out there, dude.
Cheers,
Like I said,
dude.
thanks again.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it a lot. So have a good day, man.
Yeah.